Yo, what is good, people? Ben from Lover of Tech. Oh man, let me tell you, yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. This is the big boy, the juggernaut, the camera test of all camera comparisons for 2020, the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra versus the new iPhone 12 Pro Max. Is the difference that Apple were talking about with this 12 Pro Max, with the newer, larger sensor and aperture, and that new in-body image stabilization sensor shift, any good versus the big boys? We're gonna test everything, man. Daylight, low light, front facing. And right now, man, you're seeing this in 4K UHD 30 frames. Actually, no, 4K UHD 60 frames a second on a selfie camera. So without wasting much time, man, let's get straight into the camera specs and back into the camera comparison.
So let's do a quick rundown of the main camera specs of both these cameras. Let's start with the 12 Pro Max, and we are looking at a triple camera setup on the rear, 12 megapixels on the main camera sensor, f1.6 aperture, 26mm wide field of view, and this is where you do have the new sensor shift stabilization, in-body image stabilization IBIS system on there, with the larger 47% sensor that Apple were touting that is going to give much better low light performance and much better stability. That's on the sensor and not your traditional on the optical lenses. 12 megapixel f2.2 65mm, that's where you're getting the times 2.5 optical zoom with the new further reach that you're getting on there as well. 12 megapixels ultra wide, and that is with 120-degree field of view, and you do have an additional time of flight 3D LiDAR scanner as well. That's really going to help with things like depth detection and also low light as well as auto focusing. And when you do come to the selfie camera, you are working with that 12 megapixel f2.2 eyesight selfie camera, and all the main specifications are going to be linked in the description below if you want to have a look at it. And when we come to the Note 20 Ultra, you are having that large, massive 108 megapixel main camera sensor at f1.8, and obviously it does do the pixel binning 9:1 to really give you mostly 12 megapixel output images with optical image stabilization, face detection, autofocus, and the addition of the laser AF with OIS. And then you do have the 12 megapixel ×5 optical periscope zoom with face detection, autofocus, and optical image stabilization that does go up to ×50 hybrid digital zoom. And then you do have the 12 megapixel f2.2 120-degree ultra wide field of view, ultra wide angle camera that's on the rear as well. And then when you're moving over to the front facing camera, you are working with 10 megapixels f2.2, and with that is pretty much all of it wrapped up. These are just a quick roundup. All the main specs are going to be in the main description below, so go check that out. Let's get back onto the main camera comparison.
Now we're in the front facing selfie camera, and we are looking at 4K UHD 60 frames a second on both these cameras. Oh, I'm excited for this one, man. You can't let's do this. We're gonna see how it is. Stabilization, color rendition, dynamic range, exposure, all of it, man. Go for a little run. Now we're testing it out. 4K UHD 30 frames a second on the selfie camera on both these. All right, let's see how they perform. Start with a walk. Keep an eye out on the exposure, stabilization, color rendition, and dynamic range. And small run. Now just a quick test of the 1080p 30 frames a second video recording mode on the selfie camera. Small walk, and then a run. Now we're on the rear cameras, main sensors starting off with in 4K UHD 30 frames a second on the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. Now I've got a day where the sun's out. So again, man, listen up to the audio. Let's see how the dynamic range, exposure, color rendition, and also stabilization behaves across the board. Starting with a walk and a small run. Back on the main cameras again, 30 frames a second, 4K UHD. Now the good thing is, both these being high-end video cameras
on a smartphone, you can actually switch between all focal lengths on the fly in 4K UHD 30 frames a second. What we're going to do now, switch to the ultra wide, and then we're going to take a walk. And a small run. And back to the main. Back of the main camera. On a main wide sensor on both, 4K UHD 30 frames a second. What we're going to do is switch to the zoom. Now the iPhone has that new 2.5x optical zoom, and we're putting it against the 5x periscope optical zoom on the Note 20 Ultra. Let's take a walk. And a small run for test of stabilization. Stopping. Back to the main. Back to the main. Now we'll switch into 4K UHD, 60 frames a second on both these cameras on the rear. And this is where the odd limitations start kicking in. First of all, the Note 20 Ultra can only do the 4K UHD 60 frames a second on the main wide sensor, as well as the selfie camera, but not the zoom and not the ultra wide. Whereas on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you can do it on all the camera lenses, including the selfie, the wide, the ultra wide, and the zoom. The only thing is, you do have to stop recording on the iPhone 12 Pro Max to be able to switch into the ultra wide for 4K UHD 60 frames a second. So I'm going to do a slight walk and then a run. Let's stop. So interesting. It looks like now I'm in a 4K UHD 60 frames a second video recorder mode on both these cameras, but I am in the ultra wide on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So it looks like if you do start with the ultra wide, you can switch to the main, can zoom in, only goes up to 1.5x, and you can go back to the ultra wide. It transitions so nicely though, I have to admit. Let's stick to the ultra wide. Let's start this off with a walk. Small run. And we stop. So again, yeah, this is impressive stuff from the iPhone, I've got to admit. Back to the main. So, quick rundown, 1080p, full high definition, 30 frames a second video recording mode on both these cameras. Quick run on the main sensors. Then we're gonna stop, pop them into the ultra wide, test the ultra wide. Again, both transition between their focal lengths so nicely, especially the iPhone. Quick run again, ultra wide. Stop, main, 2.5x zoom, 2.5x zoom. So 5x zoom on the Note 20 Ultra, quick run. And we stop. There we go. So this is an autofocusing test of the iPhone 12 Pro Max using the iPhone 12 mini as the subject in 4K UHD 30 frames a second. Man, I like that. The transitions are so nice and smooth. Very smooth. Definitely very smooth.
This is an autofocusing test of the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra with the iPhone 12 mini as the subject in 4K UHD 30 frames a second. Also very nice and smooth. Definitely looks like the focusing laser really helped it versus the S20 Ultra earlier from this year.
This is 1080p 30 frames a second video recording on both the cameras, but we've got this in the super stable mode on the
Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, which is using advanced electronic image stabilization and the ultra wide angle camera in 1080p 30. Quick extreme one.
Now we're in the 4K UHD 30 frames a second video recorder mode on the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Just testing out the low light performance, color rendition, as well as stabilization. We are going to do that on all 3 focal lengths and switch up and see how nighttime videography is affected. Obviously this one is the main.
And we're going to stop. We're going to move to the ultra wide. And I've said this many times. Once you get to the ultra wide, you see a massive drop in low light performance. So for whatever reason, if you're going to be shooting low light video, man, stick to the main. Stick to the main focal length. Okay, we're going to stop. Come back to the main. Come back to the main.
Now, what you're going to realize is that times 2.5 zoom is what's on the 12 Pro Max. You've got times 5 on the Note 20 Ultra. But again, I feel like in low light, it's most likely just using a main camera sensor and cropping in, because that's where you're going to get the best performance. So highly doubt it's actually using the zoom lenses and the zoom sensor.
And we'll stop. Come back to the main. Both transition between their focal lengths really nice and smoothly. Now we're testing out the low light videography on the selfie camera on both these cameras in 4K UHD 30 frames a second. We're just going to see how obviously the low light performance mainly is, stabilization, and just how it transitions when you go underneath like a street light. Definitely analyze the footage when we get into editing.
Now let's kick this off with the daytime pictures. We're going to start with some selfies, and this first selfie between the two, I think really both are doing well. I'm probably going to give it more to the 12 Pro Max, slightly wider field of view. The color temperature to my skin tones I think are a lot more accurate and a lot more pleasing, and just the overall image really draws in well. But I think the Note 20 Ultra does really well, but I think this one definitely has to go to the 12 Pro Max. So yeah, now this is selfie portrait mode. Things switch up here. I'm going to give it more to the Note 20 Ultra here, and it's more down to edge detection looking a lot better. The overall image just looks a lot more pleasing. Now the iPhone, in terms of the skin tones, I still do prefer it, but the edge detection is so weird on it and it crops in a bit more than I would like. So I have to give this one to the Note 20 Ultra. So yeah, now this one is a selfie in a car, and this one's a tough one, you know. I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max, in terms of the skin and the color rendition and the color temperature with the ultra white balance, is doing a better job. I still do like the Note 20 Ultra though. It just seems, I don't know, just seems a bit sharper it seems a bit sharper, and I think just my bias to slightly more neutral, more colder images is something that maybe draws me in. But I will say the 12 Pro Max is probably a bit more accurate. I think this is really just down to the look that you would like. Maybe slightly better dynamic range on the Note 20 Ultra, but yeah, it's kind of even. It's really just down to the image and the style that you like. So let me know in the comment section below. And again, as you can see with the selfie portrait, a slight crop that comes in on the 12 Pro Max, I still lean towards a slightly wider field of view on the Note 20 Ultra, but you know, I can get people that vibe with the 12 Pro Max. It is looking really good and it's accurate to my skin tone. So yeah, we'll say the 12 Pro Max, but a slight bias to the Note 20 Ultra in some ways, but both are doing really well. So let me know in the comment section below. Now this one, I've got to say the iPhone all the way. Honestly, I retook this picture at least a good 5 times. The Note 20 Ultra for some reason was just struggling with focus and the whole exposure is all off. It just looks really soft. The 12 Pro Max just looks tack sharp, color accurate, bang on, especially in a backlit situation like that. 12 Pro Max all the way, no question on this scene right here. And again, with less backlighting, you can see 12 Pro Max all the way. Note 20 Ultra, for whatever reason, man, it's just struggling with focus, and I'm just not liking how soft the image looks. I mean, the colors are good, but really and truly, man, the 12 Pro Max is accurate, it's tack sharp, got it bang on. I think 12 Pro Max all the way. Now the story changes with the ultra wide. I think the Note 20 Ultra's ultra wide angle shot on here is much better, definitely more color accurate. The vibrancy on the 12 Pro Max is definitely a bit too much in the sky, even though it's definitely pleasing. That's not how the sky was looking that day. And then even just the dynamic range and the shadow exposure around my face is definitely better on the Note 20 Ultra. So I'll give it to the Note 20 Ultra on this one here. Now let's look at the portrait mode shots of both these cameras. Obviously live focus on the Note 20 Ultra, portrait mode on the 12 Pro Max. The colors and the exposure and the dynamic range, I'll definitely say is better on the 12 Pro Max. But the problem I'm having is the edge detection on the 12 Pro Max is very strange. It's not that great to me personally, but it does give a very natural looking background blur separation. But if you look carefully, especially around my head, the edge detection is just really not that great to me personally. The Note 20 Ultra has better edge detection, no doubt, but the colors and the shadow detail around, let's just say where my neck and my beard is and around my face, definitely not as good as the 12 Pro Max, as well as the colors. It doesn't look as good, but the edge detection and the background blur it's actually decent, but it's a toss up. So maybe I'll lean more towards the 12 Pro Max. It's just different looks for both of them. And the ones that you've seen here, it's with obviously the wide focal length with the 12 Pro Max, as well as the Note 20 Ultra. Now the second look for portrait mode is the 2.5x zoom with the Pro Max, which generally does give that more genuine compressed look of a portrait image that you want. The Note 20 Ultra doesn't have a mid-range zoom, so what it's actually having to do is it has to actually crop in on the main camera sensor, because the ×5x zoom is just way too much. So it's actually having to crop in to kind of give you that focal length of around 50 to 60 millimeters. So I think in terms of the look, and you can see the distortion on my face, it's a lot more accurate on the 12 Pro Max. But again, the edge detection around my head, if you just look ever so slightly, it's a little bit distracting. Anywhere else is actually spot on. So overall, I'll say that the 12 Pro Max is performing a much more genuine portrait look, especially with the fall off of the background blur. It looks a bit more genuine. Although the edge detection is better on the Note 20 Ultra, again, the colors, the exposure, it's not right to, you know, compared to the 12 Pro Max. So let me know what you think in the comment section below, which one you prefer out of the two. Landscape shot with the main cameras directly underneath the sun. I'm going to be honest with you, I had to look really deep at this one. This is almost even. The only reason why I'm going to give it to the 12 Pro Max is color accuracy. The Note 20 Ultra just punches up and is a bit more vibrant, but that's just more of a choice and a style. Apart from that, dynamic range, exposure, control of the sun, the shadows, everything is very even. I had to really look deep at this, but I'm going to give it slightly to the, you know, iPhone 12 Pro Max, just more for color accuracy and less vibrance. But if you choose the vibrant look of the Note 20 Ultra, it's not really a wrong choice. It's just more of a style of color processing and image processing. So let me know which one you prefer. And with the ultra wide, I've got to give the iPhone 12 Pro Max for consistency at each focal length. but you do get a slightly wider field of view on the Note 20 Ultra with less distortion than I was expecting, which is a good look. So it's really just down to what you prefer. I really like the ultra wide performance on the Note 20 Ultra. It's some of the best ultra wide I've seen. So that's just for me personally. So let me know in the comment section below which one is your favorite out of the two. Now here is both the zoom performance. 12 Pro Max at 2.5x optical zoom, and you've got a ×5 periscope optical zoom on the Note 20 Ultra. Clear night and day, the Note 20 Ultra is going to be much better when it comes to reach and clarity. But the 2.5x on the 12 Pro Max is not bad. It's actually really good. It holds up the exposure much more even, where it does seem a little bit dark on the Note 20 Ultra. Makes sense, less light is coming in, but I'm going to take more of the reach and the flexibility you're going to get on a periscope zoom, even though the 2.5x is not too bad. It's not too bad. This shot is back to the main, but this is with the 4:3 aspect ratio at 108 megapixels on the Note 20 Ultra. This is the best conditions to try this, where you get maximum detail, but you need a lot of natural light. And what you'll see on the phone is that at times it would actually give you a notification with the scene optimizer that, hey, switch to the 108 megapixel mode because there is enough light. So I just wanted to showcase it. Whether you can tell the difference in this compressed video, let me know, but this is the 108 megapixel mode. This picture of this sign, both in terms of color rendition, are pretty much near enough spot on. I would say the Note 20 Ultra slightly more vibrant, leans a little bit more to like an orange look, but it's not that much, near enough the same. The only reason why I like the Note 20 Ultra a bit more is in the same position, you are getting a slightly wider field of view on the main camera sensor versus the 12 Pro Max. But I think 12 Pro Max just nails the color accuracy so just slightly better. So it's a toss-up in that sense. Color accuracy, definitely 12 Pro Max, wider field of view, and still having a tack sharp image with decent color accuracy, with slight vibrance and a bit more style, Note 20 Ultra. So really down to which one you prefer. And it's pretty much the same story with the ultra wide. Wider field of view on the Note 20 Ultra, and you can definitely see and notice it. And the color consistency is something that I'm really impressed with on the 12 Pro Max. It keeps very much the same consistency of the color rendition and reproduction in each focal length. And the Note 20 Ultra is pretty much like that as well, but the iPhone is just so subtle, but you notice it. So yeah, man. And again, testing the optical zoom, 2.5x on the 12 Pro Max and ×5 on the Note 20 Ultra. The Note 20 Ultra is super clear, but again, the consistency in each focal length and each camera sensor and lens on the 12 Pro Max is so good. You pretty much have confidence that you're going to get pretty much near enough the same looking type of image at each focal length. So that's impressive in a sense, right? We're going to go through some landscape shots again, and this is starting with the main sensor. And yeah, I definitely like the 12 Pro Max. The Note 20 Ultra seems a bit more, slightly darker, more contrasty, not a bad looking image, but in this situation, I like the 12 Pro Max. And when you switch to the ultra wide, I would give it to the 12 Pro Max ever so slightly here as well. But I think both are spot on when it comes to how they're looking. But that's just really down to, you know, how I like the image of the 12 Pro Max a bit more. Now, in this situation, you got to give it to the Note 20 Ultra. This is where it's in its element when it comes to zoom. You're getting more reach and still maintaining very, very good clarity and sharpness. 2.5x optical zoom on the 12 Pro Max versus ×5, and we're pretty much just going to go through each stage, and you can see that you maintain a much clearer image with slightly more reach, especially when you get to the further images. In this situation here, we've lined up the 12 Pro Max at ×5 digital zoom, and you can see that the Note 20 Ultra is still clear, but the processing on the 12 Pro Max is actually really good. It's a lot clearer than I was expecting it to be, so it's actually doing really well to compensate. Next range is ×10 on both, and you can still see ever so slightly clearer on the Note 20 Ultra in this condition, less haze, less noise, where you do see a bit of that on the 12 Pro Max, but I think it's still holding up a lot better than I was expecting, but definitely Note 20 Ultra looking better. And this is the furthest that the 12 Pro Max will go, which is ×12 digital zoom, and it's holding up actually a lot better again than I was expecting, but still much clearer on the Note 20 Ultra. So this is where the periscope optical zoom technology really works well in this condition. When it activates, because there's enough light coming in, you're going to get a clearer optical image and better reach. And to drive the point away even further, this is ×20 digital zoom on the Note 20 Ultra. This is where you can start seeing it fall apart a little bit, but it still holds on because it's built to have that range. And then you do go up to ×50 digital zoom, which I definitely wouldn't really recommend going that far, but it's there if you need it. And if you're in extremely bright situations like this, it's actually not that bad. It's not the greatest. I wouldn't use it necessarily as a first option, probably up to ×10 and stop there, maybe ×20, pushing it depending on what situation. But this is the difference between the Note 20 Ultra and the 12 Pro Max. And going through some final daytime shots with these landscapes at the top of the road, you can see again, color consistency on the 12 Pro Max is really good. You do get a slightly wider field of view when it comes to the ultra wide on the Note 20, and also showing again that the ×5 optical zoom really gives you much more reach while still maintaining the clarity, as you can see with the giveaway sign, versus the ×2.5 optical zoom on the 12 Pro Max. So if you care about having the ultimate in flexibility, slightly wider field of view, and also more reach, Note 20 Ultra is the way to go, even though the 12 Pro Max does hold good color consistency across each focal length. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Nighttime pictures is where the real test begins with the 12 Pro Max, because again, it does have the bigger sensor versus the normal 12 Pro and the 12 with the bigger aperture. And obviously at 47% bigger, you know, Apple will tell in that with the bigger sensor, bigger aperture, you're getting much better low light performance improvement, up to 87%, I believe, versus the previous models. But what does that actually mean in real world situations, in extreme low light situations against the competition? This is the main sensor here. And as you can see, it's, to me, I don't really think it's doing that great versus the Note 20 Ultra. I think the Note 20 Ultra and the standard night shots without night mode is looking way better, much cleaner. And I already had a problem with the Note 20 Ultra and how it processed night pictures, but I think they've just done some software updates to really clean up. I don't really think the 12 Pro Max is holding up that well. In my personal opinion, it's quite soft and quite muddy. So yeah, this is the ultra wide in nighttime, and honestly, both are not looking that great. I would say the Note 20 Ultra is doing a better job, but I still wouldn't use the ultra wide in standard night shots for any of the camera. If you're doing night shots, try and use the main. But yeah, the Note 20 Ultra is faring up a bit better, but both are just not really that great. And the 12 Pro Max is really struggling with the ultra wide at nighttime, but that's to be expected. Now back to the main sensors, night mode, and here's where things switch up. 12 Pro Max with night mode is doing really good. Here's just more of a style preference. I feel some people might prefer the more subtle, more preserving look of nighttime with the Note 20 Ultra, still keeping a very clean, tactile, sharp image, whereas the 12 Pro Max is brighter, which is not a bad thing. I think it really compensates a lot better, really just down to what style you want for your night modes. I prefer the Note 20 Ultra personally, but the bright image is really good and it kind of draws you in and it cleans up the image a lot better when it comes to the night mode. And you can see with the ultra wide, the style kind of switches up. It seems like the 12 Pro Max with the ultra wide in night mode preserves more of the night look, whereas the Note 20 Ultra kind of brightens up a little bit more, but the sky is a bit more darker. But again, I think both for the ultra wide for night mode really do a good job, but you have to be very still in this situation. So if you're on a pinch where you need to use the ultra wide for whatever reason at nighttime, activate the night mode, don't use the standard shots. Now for some landscape nighttime shots, and this is starting with the ultra wide. And as you can see, man, the ultra wide on both these cameras is something I would not recommend for standard night shots, but the Note 20 Ultra is faring better, whereas the 12 Pro Max is really struggling, but that's to be expected. Try and avoid using the standard shots in the ultra wide for night shots. Now to the standard wide main sensors on both in the nighttime shots, 12 Pro Max has improved a lot versus the ultra wide. That's to be expected. But versus the Note 20 Ultra, I still prefer the Note 20 Ultra. Not to say that the 12 Pro Max is bad, but it just looks a bit more noisy and a lot more muddy in that sense to me, whereas the Note 20 Ultra just looks a lot cleaner. And when we zoom in 2.5x times 5x, I would say at nighttime it's most likely using the main camera sensors and cropping in. It's probably not reverting to the telephoto. So I think actually the 12 Pro Max does look a bit cleaner, where there's more digital noise on the Note 20 Ultra, even though you're getting more reach. So just bear that in mind in that sense. I think the 12 Pro Max is doing a bit better, even though it has less reach. Now we're going to take it to the extreme. In this pretty much area, as you've seen in previous camera tests, this area is pitch black to the point where I can barely see when I'm in there. And as you can see, man, the Note 20 Ultra really is doing a better job. Is it great? No. This is extreme. Bearing in mind, this is extreme low light, and the 12 Pro Max is really falling apart. It's just not doing great. Note 20 Ultra definitely takes this one. But now, extreme low light with night mode on both the main sensors, and again, the story characteristics is the same. 12 Pro Max really brightens up the image. And you know, the Note 20 Ultra keeps more of the night look. Again, really depends. I think in this extreme situation, I'll probably lean more to the 12 Pro Max just because it's extremely dark. You kind of want to see as much as possible. but it does look slightly cleaner and more realistic tonight on the Note 20 Ultra. So let me know which one you prefer. Again, this is the extreme low light with the ultra wide angle camera on both. And to drive that message home, do not use the ultra wide in standard night shots. It's not worth it. It's really, really bad. But then again, to drive that message home again, if you're having to use the ultra wide at night for any reason, activate night mode. And when you activate night mode, it makes a big difference. The unfortunate thing, although the 12 Pro Max really brightens up the image, it's very, very, very soft and very muddy. Versus the Note 20 Ultra cleans it up so well. I'm even surprised that it's able to produce this for night mode on the ultra wide angle camera. So well done to the Note 20 Ultra. Much better improved than the 12 Pro Max, but way too soft and muddy. So I would avoid it altogether there. Now this is the standard selfie at nighttime, and I don't know. I think both are just struggling, and that's to be expected. Very small sensors on the selfie, maybe the slightly wider field of view on the 12 Pro Max, but doesn't really matter. And you know, the exposure is pretty much the same. So probably 12 Pro Max, just more for wider field of view, I guess. But I've got to give it to the iPhone 12 Pro Max. This is night mode selfie on both the cameras, and the 12 Pro Max really, really does a phenomenal job here. So if you're taking selfies at night with night mode, definitely use the night mode on the 12 Pro Max. Note 20 Ultra to me really didn't really make much of a difference in my opinion. But I gotta say, the better solution for nighttime selfies for the Note 20 Ultra is using the flash. If you're using a flash, I think the flash performance for the nighttime selfie is better than on the Note 20 Ultra versus the 12 Pro Max. So just bear that in mind. Night mode selfie better on the 12 Pro Max. Selfie flash better on the Note 20 Ultra. So last set of nighttime pictures are going to be the nighttime portrait mode, and the addition of the LiDAR scanner definitely aids to the 12 Pro Max. Nighttime portraits are much better. This is in 2 focal lengths. This is the one that you're seeing here at ×1, which is the wider focal length for the portrait mode, and I love what I'm seeing here with the 12 Pro Max. It's doing a much better job. Note 20 Ultra just falls apart here, just doesn't look good, and I took about 3-4 pictures so you can see the differences, and it's consistent throughout. Nighttime portrait mode with the 12 Pro Max definitely is the way to go. Now at 2.5x, it does resort to using a flash on the 12 Pro Max. The Note 20 Ultra doesn't have a mid-range zoom sensor at ×2 or 2.5 or ×3 to be able to crop when it's doing portrait mode. So it still uses a wide angle standard camera. So I guess it does look better with the flash and exposure. But yeah, this one's extreme. I think if you're doing nighttime portrait modes, again, story is use the wide on the Note 20 Ultra with the flash, whereas obviously with the 12 Pro Max you can crop in, use the flash. The exposure is a bit, you know, a bit more subdued, but I would say that the nighttime portrait mode on a wide is better on the 12 Pro Max. Let's wrap up the conclusion on this. And wow, this was a really, really tough camera comparison, man. When it comes to the video side, both hold their own in their own way. Personally, at some parts I preferred the selfie video performance on the Note 20 Ultra, but then actually overall I would say that the video performance on the selfie is better on the 12 Pro Max. Again, I didn't shoot in HDR, I left it all in SDR. I'll probably do a separate video in HDR, but man, these are some of the best video performance you're going to be getting on any smartphone at the top end. I think just overall the 12 Pro Max just giving you the ability to shoot in 4K UHD 60 frames a second on all the camera sensors, selfie, ultra wide, main, as well as the zoom. It gives it a win. Now again, just to clarify that when you do shoot in ultra wide with the 60 frames a second, when you stop recording to switch in there, when you're switching from the ultra wide, it's not actually switching to the main, it's cropping in from the ultra wide. It's something I noticed. That's the only reason why I was going up to 1.5x zoom rather than 2.5x zoom. You have to start the recording in 4K 60 on the main, then it will allow you to go into 2.5x zoom. So it's still a bit quirky, but it's still one of the only cameras that can allow you to shoot 4K 60 on all the focal lengths. So I have to say probably the video performance has to probably go overall to the 12 Pro Max. Stability is really good, but man, the Note 20 Ultra still holds its own. I think the ultra wide angle camera on there is so much nicer to use as well. So when it comes to video, personally, and I don't think you can go wrong with either, but I definitely have to admit that the 12 Pro Max does give an edge, both for suffering from these weird lens orb problems, and I thought that was just going to be exclusive to the 12 Pro Max, but it's something I was seeing on the Note 20 Ultra as well, so just bear that in mind. But overall, in terms of stabilization, color rendition, you know, when it comes to exposure, dynamic range, shooting modes, you know, both these phones are big boys. When it comes to pictures though, I can't lie to you, I think overall it was a back and forth. I just think when it comes to overall, maybe the Note 20 Ultra is something I would prefer more. I was looking forward to this improvement with the main camera sensor, with the stabilization of the sensor shift, with the IBIS on the 12 Pro Max to be a big difference maker. I'm not seeing it. I might be missing something, but I'm not seeing it. And at nighttime, I think overall the nighttime performance on the Note 20 Ultra is much, much better. I think the 12 Pro Max struggles and it's not really on par. So that's what I think in that overall conclusion, man. When it comes to this camera test, wow, I know it's a bit of a long one, but I really just wanted to go in and really satisfy mine and just make sure that I did it the best I could for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this camera comparison, man. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think? You know, let's have an open discussion and see which one you thought won it out, objectively, subjectively, in certain parts. What's your favorite? Which one do you have? Do you have both? Do you have one? Are you planning to? And hopefully this video helps someone to make a decision in my particular shooting environment. That is it for me, man. Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoy videos like this, you know exactly what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button so you're part Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.